Maya Chen wiped grease from her hands with an old rag as she heard the rumble of engines overhead. Her small repair shop on the edge of New Bakersfield wasn't exactly on the main shipping routes, so visitors were rare. The sound was different too. Not the familiar hum of human cargo haulers or the whine of mining shuttles, but something deeper, more complex. She stepped outside her workshop and looked up at the orange sky of Kepler 442b. A ship was descending through the atmosphere, trailing smoke and sparks. Not a controlled landing. This was an emergency. The vessel was unlike anything she'd seen before. Where human ships were all angles and efficiency, this one curved and flowed, like it had been grown rather than built. Beautiful, but clearly in trouble. The ship crashed about 2 kilometers from her shop, sending up a cloud of dust and debris. Maya grabbed her emergency kit and jumped into her old hover truck. As the colony's only qualified starship mechanic, emergency calls were part of the job, even if they didn't pay much. When she reached the crash site, she found the ship had gouged a long furrow in the red dirt before coming to rest against a rocky outcrop. The hull was cracked in several places, and some kind of green fluid was leaking from the engines. But what really caught her attention was the figure sitting beside the wreckage. He was tall, maybe 7 feet, with pale blue skin that shimmered slightly in the sunlight. His features were sharp and angular, with large eyes that seemed to hold too much intelligence. Definitely not human, but there was something familiar about his posture. The slumped shoulders of someone whose day had gone very, very wrong. Maya approached slowly, hands visible and empty. The universal, "I'm not a threat" gesture worked with most species. In her experience, "You okay?" she called out in standard trade language, the common tongue used throughout known space. The alien looked up, surprise flickering across his features. "You speak trade standard? This is a human colony, but we get all kinds out here on the rim. Name's Maya. I fix things." He stood, towering over her, but his movement was careful, non-threatening. "I am Zephyr of the Third House, Navigator Prime of the vessel." He gestured helplessly at the wreckage. "Well, former vessel Starweaver." Maya walked around the ship, professional eyes cataloging the damage. The hull breach could be welded, but the real problem was the engine system. She'd never seen technology like this before. It looked like crystalline structures growing through metallic frameworks, all pulsing with that strange green fluid. "What happened?" she asked, pulling out her diagnostic scanner. The readings made no sense. "Pirates," Zephyr said bitterly. "They've been hunting ships along this route for months. My people, the Kythara. We are not warriors. We are explorers, traders, artists. When they attacked, I could only run." "Did you send a distress call? To whom?" "This sector is outside Kythara space. I assumed it was uninhabited wasteland." He paused. "I was wrong, it seems." Maya knelt beside the engine assembly, shining her light into the damaged systems. The green fluid was some kind of coolant or fuel. It had the consistency of hydraulic fluid, but glowed with its own light. Where it had leaked, the metal around it had started to change color, as if the liquid itself was alive. "I've never seen tech like this before," she admitted. "But damaged is damaged." "Mind if I take a closer look?" Zephyr hesitated. "You would help me. But I have nothing to offer in payment." "The pirates took everything of value," Maya shrugged. "You're stuck in the middle of nowhere with a broken ship. I'm a mechanic. Seems simple to me." For the next several hours, Maya crawled through the Starweaver's engine compartments while Zephyr explained how the systems worked. Kythera technology was based on biomechanical symbiosis, living crystal networks that interfaced directly with the ship's pilot. It was incredibly advanced, but also delicate. The pirates' energy weapons had disrupted the neural pathways that controlled the faster-than-light drive. "This is amazing," Maya said, tracing the crystal formations with her finger. They felt warm, almost alive. "It's like the ship thinks for itself." "In a way, it does," Zephyr said. Each Kithara vessel develops its own personality over time. Starweaver is, particularly clever. She brought me here, to you, instead of dying in the void. Maya found the main damage. A cluster of cracked crystals that formed the core of the navigation system. Human tools were crude compared to Kithara technology. But physics was physics. She spent the rest of the day carefully extracting the damaged crystals and using her welding equipment to fuse the cracks. It shouldn't have worked. The crystalline structures operated on principles that were beyond current human understanding. But Maya had a gift for making broken things work again, even when she didn't fully understand how they were supposed to function in the first place. As the twin suns of Kepler 442 set, casting long shadows across the crash site, Maya finished the last delicate repair. "Try it now," she said. Zephyr placed his hands on what looked like a smooth metal panel, but Maya could see the way his fingers aligned with hidden sensors. The ship hummed to life, its biomechanical systems coming online one by one. The green fluid began to flow again, and the crystal networks pulsed with renewed energy. "Incredible," Zephyr breathed. "You have repaired technology that our best engineers would struggle with, using tools that should be completely inadequate for the task." Maya packed up her equipment. "Sometimes the old ways work just fine. Besides, I had a good teacher." She gestured at Zephyr. "Your explanations were clear. But why?" Zephyr asked as she prepared to leave. "Why help a stranger? Someone not even of your species?" Maya paused at her truck. "Because you needed help, and I could provide it. That's enough." The Starweaver lifted off smoothly, its engines now running clean and quiet. Maya watched it disappear into the night sky before driving back to her workshop. She had a dozen other repair jobs waiting, and morning would come early. She never expected to see Zephyr again. The galaxy was a big place, and their paths had crossed by pure chance. But as she fell asleep that night, she found herself thinking about the crystal networks and the living ships of the Kithara. There was so much to learn, so much to discover. 3 weeks later, Maya was elbow-deep in the engine of a mining shuttle when the sensors in her workshop started screaming alerts. She emerged, covered in lubricant and swearing, to see what looked like a small city descending from the sky. The galactic cruiser was massive, easily 10 times the size of anything that had ever visited Kepler 442b. Its hull gleamed like polished silver, and it moved with the kind of perfect grace that spoke of technology far beyond human capability. As it settled onto the flat ground outside the colony, Maya could see hundreds of smaller ships moving around it like attendants around a queen. The colony's emergency sirens started wailing. This was either first contact with a major galactic civilization or the prelude to invasion. Either way, it was definitely above Maya's pay grade as a small-town mechanic. But as she watched the massive ship deploy what looked like an honor guard of exotic aliens in formal robes, Maya couldn't shake the feeling that this visit had something to do with her. The timing was too coincidental. 3 weeks since Zephyr had limped away in his repaired ship, and now this. Her communicator buzzed with an incoming message from the colonial administrator. "Maya, we need you at the landing site immediately. The aliens are asking for you by name." Maya looked down at her grease-stained coveralls and sighed. Whatever was happening, she had the distinct feeling that her quiet life as a frontier mechanic was about to become much more complicated. As she climbed into her hover truck and headed toward the massive alien ship, Maya Chen had no idea that her simple act of kindness 3 weeks ago was about to change not just her life, but the entire relationship between humanity and the greater galactic community. Sometimes the smallest gestures have the biggest consequences. Maya arrived at the landing site to find half the colony already gathered in a nervous crowd. The massive cruiser dominated the landscape, its hull reflecting the afternoon sun like a mirror. Colonial Administrator Davis was pacing back and forth, his face pale with stress. "Maya, thank God you're here," he said, rushing over to her truck. "They landed an hour ago and immediately asked to speak with the human engineer who aided Navigator Zephyr. That's you, right?" Yeah, I helped him fix his ship a few weeks back, Maya said, trying to process what she was seeing. But I had no idea it would lead to this. A delegation was approaching from the cruiser. At its head walked a figure Maya recognized. Zephyr, but now dressed in flowing robes of silver and blue, instead of the practical flight suit he'd worn before. Behind him came a procession of other Kithara, each one carrying what looked like ceremonial objects. But it wasn't just Kithara. Maya could see at least a dozen different alien species in the group. There was a massive insectoid creature that moved on 6 legs, its carapace gleaming black and gold. A tall, ethereal being that seemed to be made of living crystal, similar to the technology in Zephyr's ship but walking around on its own, something that looked like it was part plant, with bark-like skin and leaves instead of hair. Maya Chen, Zephyr called out as the delegation approached. His voice carried clearly across the distance, and the crowd of colonists fell silent. I have returned to honor a debt. Administrator Davis stepped forward nervously. Welcome to Kepler 442b. I am Administrator Davis, the colonial representative of the United Earth government. If there's been some misunderstanding, Zephyr held up a hand politely but firmly. With respect, Administrator, this matter concerns Maya Chen specifically. She performed a service for the Kithara people, and we do not forget such kindness. Maya found herself walking forward, still wearing her grease-stained coveralls in front of what was clearly some kind of galactic diplomatic delegation. Zephyr? What's all this about? I just fixed your ship. The tall Kithara smiled, an expression that transformed his angular features. You just performed what my people are calling the miracle of the Outer Rim. When I returned to Kithara space, the story of what you did spread quickly throughout our society. The insectoid creature stepped forward, its voice coming from a translator device. Navigator Zephyr's ship was analyzed by our finest engineers. The repairs you performed should have been impossible with primitive human technology. Hey now, Maya said, bristling slightly. Our tech isn't that primitive. It just works different than yours. The crystal being chimed in with a voice like wind through metal. Precisely the point, Engineer Chen. You took technology you had never seen before, and not only understood its function, but repaired it using completely different technological principles. This demonstrates an adaptability of mind that is remarkably rare. Zephyr gestured to his companions. Allow me to introduce the delegation. High Engineer Vex 9 of the Tarask Collective. The insectoid creature clicked its mandibles in what might have been a bow. Resonance Singer Aelin of the Crystal Choir. The crystal being pulsed with inner light. Growth Tender Oakmind of the Verdani Union. The plant-like alien rustled its leaves. We represent the Technical Exchange Consortium, Zephyr continued. A coalition of species dedicated to the advancement of engineering and scientific knowledge throughout the galaxy. Maya looked around at the crowd of colonists, all staring at her like she'd suddenly sprouted wings. Okay. But what does that have to do with me? I'm just a small-town mechanic. High Engineer Vex 9 clicked excitedly. Just a mechanic? You successfully interfaced crude fusion welding technology with biocrystalline neural networks. Our best engineers have been trying to understand how you accomplished this for weeks. It seemed obvious, Maya said, confused. The crystals were cracked, so I fused them back together. Like welding, but more careful. The delegation exchanged looks that Maya couldn't interpret. Resonance Singer Aelin's voice carried a note of amazement. She speaks of complex biomechanical repair as if it were basic maintenance. Fascinating. Zephyr stepped closer. Maya, when you repaired my ship, you did more than fix damaged crystals. You somehow convinced the biomechanical systems to accept your modifications and integrate them into their operational matrix. Starweaver doesn't just fly now, she flies better than before. The neural pathways you created have increased efficiency by 12%, High Engineer Vex 9 added. Our computers cannot even model how your repairs achieved this improvement. Maya felt a flutter of pride, but also confusion. Look, I'm flattered, but I still don't understand why you're all here. If you want to know how I fixed the ship, I can write up a report or something. Growth-tender Oakmind spoke for the first time, its voice like rustling leaves. Knowledge shared is knowledge multiplied. But knowledge demonstrated is knowledge proven. We come not just to learn from you, Engineer Chen, but to offer you a place among us. A place? Zephyr smiled. The Technical Exchange Consortium maintains research stations throughout the galaxy, centers of learning where the greatest engineers and scientists from hundreds of worlds work together to push the boundaries of what's possible. We would like to invite you to join us. The offer hit Maya like a physical blow. Leave Kepler 442b? Leave her workshop, her quiet life, fixing mining equipment and cargo haulers? The idea was terrifying and exhilarating at the same time. I don't know, she said. This is my home. These are my people. Administrator Davis stepped forward again. Maya, if you're worried about the colony, we'll manage. This is an incredible opportunity. More than an opportunity, High Engineer Vex 9 clicked. Our preliminary scans of this world show significant mineral resources that could benefit from advanced extraction technology. A partnership between the consortium and your colony could be mutually beneficial. Maya looked around at the faces watching her. Colonists who had lived hard lives on the edge of known space, scratching a living from unforgiving soil. If the consortium could really help them, what exactly are you offering? She asked. Resonance singer Aelin pulsed with light. Access to the greatest repository of technical knowledge in the galaxy. Technologies that could transform your world, your species. The chance to work alongside the finest minds from dozens of civilizations. And in return, your unique perspective, Zephyr said simply. Humanity has been isolated for so long that you've developed engineering solutions we never considered. You think differently than we do. And that difference is valuable. Maya thought about the repair she'd made to Starweaver. It had seemed obvious to her, but apparently it was anything but obvious to advanced galactic civilizations. Maybe her human approach to problem-solving really was something special. I'll need time to think about it, she said finally. Of course, but perhaps you would accept a demonstration of what we offer? Growth-tender Oakmind gestured toward the colony's struggling agricultural domes. Your growing facilities are inefficient. With your permission, I could optimize them while you consider our proposal. Administrator Davis looked like he might faint from excitement. You could really help our farms? The Verdani understand plant systems perhaps better than any other species, Zephyr said. It would be a small gift, regardless of Maya's decision. Over the following days, Maya watched as the consortium delegation transformed the colony. Growth-tender Oakmind worked with the farmers to redesign the agricultural systems, introducing biomechanical improvements that increased crop yields by 300%. High Engineer Vex 9 helped optimize the mining equipment, making it safer and more efficient. Resonance singer Aelin improved the colony's communication systems, giving them clear contact with Earth for the first time in months. But it was the conversations with Zephyr that really made Maya think. He showed her recordings from consortium research stations, incredible workshops where engineers from dozens of species collaborated on projects that seemed like magic, starships that could cross the galaxy in days, technology that could terraform dead worlds, medical devices that could cure diseases that had plagued civilizations for centuries. The greatest discoveries come from the meeting of different minds, Zephyr said as they watched the sunset from outside Maya's workshop. Human engineering is unique in the galaxy. You build things that work despite being theoretically impossible. You find solutions where others see only problems. And you really think I could contribute to something like that? Maya, you already have. The report on your repair of Starweaver has been distributed throughout consortium space. Engineers are trying to replicate your techniques. Some are calling it the beginning of a new branch of biomechanical engineering. Maya looked out at the colony, now bustling with activity, as the improved systems came online. People were smiling more, working with renewed energy. The consortium had done more for this place in a week than the colonial administration had managed in years. If I agree, she said slowly, it wouldn't be permanent. Would it? I could come back? The consortium values all its members, Zephyr said. Your homeworld would always be your homeworld. But Maya. He paused. Once you see what's possible out there, I think you'll find it hard to be satisfied with fixing mining shuttles. That night, Maya made her decision. But she also started to understand that this choice would change more than just her own life. The consortium's interest in humanity wasn't just about her mechanical skills. It was about human potential, about what her species could contribute to the galactic community. As she prepared for sleep, Maya Chen didn't realize that her decision would soon lead to the first formal alliance between humanity and a galactic civilization. All she knew was that tomorrow, she would give Zephyr her answer, and whatever happened next, nothing would ever be the same again. Maya stood before the assembled delegation the next morning, her decision weighing heavy in her chest. The massive cruiser gleamed in the early sunlight, its presence having already transformed the colony in ways both obvious and subtle. The farmers were talking excitedly about the new growing techniques. The miners were planning expanded operations. And everyone seemed to walk a little taller, knowing they were now connected to something vast and wonderful. I'll go with you, Maya said, her voice carrying clearly across the landing site. But I have conditions. Zephyr's angular features showed surprise. Conditions? First, this colony gets full membership in whatever trade agreements or technology-sharing programs the consortium offers. They don't get left behind just because I'm the one you're interested in. High Engineer Vex 9 clicked approvingly. Loyalty to one's community. This is precisely the kind of thinking the consortium values. Second, Maya continued, I want to maintain contact with Earth. If humanity is going to be part of this galactic community, it should be all of humanity. Not just me. Growth-tender Oakmind rustled its leaves in what might have been laughter. She negotiates for her entire species. How wonderfully human. Resonance singer Aelin pulsed with warm light. These conditions are not only acceptable but admirable. The consortium has been considering formal contact with Earth for some time. Your situation provides the perfect opportunity. Maya felt a mix of relief and terror. She was about to leave everything she'd ever known. But at least she'd done right by her people. The next few hours were a whirlwind of preparation. Maya packed her tools, her technical manuals, and a few personal items. Administrator Davis kept thanking her repeatedly, as if she were making some great sacrifice instead of accepting the opportunity of several lifetimes. You've given us a future, he said as she loaded her belongings onto the consortium shuttle. Before this, we were just scraping by on the edge of nowhere. Now you're connected to something bigger, Maya finished. Use it well. The shuttle ride to the cruiser was Maya's first time in alien technology designed for passengers. The Kithara craft moved with impossible smoothness, and the view of the colony shrinking below them took her breath away. She'd lived her entire life on that small collection of domes and buildings, and now it looked like a toy model. Nervous? Zephyr asked, settling into the seat beside her. Terrified, Maya admitted, but also excited. I've spent my whole life fixing things that other people built. The chance to create something new. You'll have that chance. But first, there's something you should see. The main cruiser was even more impressive from the inside. The corridors were vast and filled with beings from dozens of different worlds. Maya saw creatures that looked like living metal, others that seemed to be made of pure energy, and some that defied easy description. They all nodded respectfully to her as she passed, and she realized that word of her arrival had spread throughout the ship. Zephyr led her to what he called the Central Archive, a massive chamber filled with floating displays showing technical schematics, research data, and project reports from across the galaxy. The scale of knowledge represented here was staggering. This is just one ship's database, Zephyr said, watching Maya's expression. The consortium maintains hundreds of research facilities, each specializing in different aspects of technology and science, the accumulated knowledge of centuries of cooperation between dozens of civilizations. Maya walked between the displays, her engineering mind trying to process what she was seeing. Technologies for manipulating matter at the molecular level, energy sources that could power entire star systems, transportation methods that made faster-than-light travel look primitive. How do you choose what to work on? She asked, overwhelmed by the possibilities. That's where new perspectives become crucial. "Hi, engineer," Vex 9 said, approaching from behind. "We have become so advanced that we sometimes lose sight of simpler solutions. Your repair of Navigator Zephyr's ship is a perfect example." The insectoid engineer activated one of the displays, showing a detailed analysis of Maya's work on the Starweaver. "Our best biomechanical specialists have been studying your technique. You achieved something we thought was impossible, creating a stable interface between crystalline neural networks and metallic substrates using only thermal fusion." End quote. "It wasn't that complicated," Maya protested. "The crystals wanted to heal themselves. I just gave them the energy and framework to do it." "Wanted to heal?" Resonance singer Alan repeated, its crystalline body chiming softly. "You attributed intention to the biological components. This is not how consortium engineers typically think, but it's how the systems actually function," growth tender Oakmind added. "We have been approaching biomechanical integration as a purely technical problem, but your instinctive understanding of the living aspects has opened new avenues of research." Maya found herself smiling. This was what she'd been missing on Kepler 442b. The chance to work with people who understood not just that she could fix things, but why her approach was different and valuable. Over the following days, as the cruiser traveled toward the nearest consortium research station, Maya began to understand the true scope of what she'd gotten herself into. The consortium wasn't just a collection of advanced civilizations sharing technology, it was a community dedicated to pushing the boundaries of what was possible, always searching for new ways to understand and improve the universe. She sat in on engineering conferences where beings from different worlds debated the theoretical limits of faster-than-light travel. She watched as teams of researchers from multiple species collaborated on projects that could revolutionize galactic civilization. She began to see how her human perspective could contribute to work that was literally changing the galaxy. But it was during a private conversation with Zephyr that Maya truly understood what her simple act of kindness had set in motion. "The consortium has been watching humanity for some time," he admitted as they stood in the observation deck, watching stars stream past at impossible speeds. "Your species shows remarkable potential. But you've been isolated, developing independently. We weren't sure if contact would be beneficial. And now? Now we see that human engineering intuition could revolutionize how we approach biomechanical systems. More than that, your instinctive cooperation and willingness to help strangers suggests that humanity would thrive in a galactic community." Maya thought about the small act that had started this chain of events. She'd simply seen someone who needed help and provided it, asking nothing in return. It hadn't seemed like anything special at the time. "The pirates who attacked you," she said suddenly. "Are they still a problem?" Zephyr's expression darkened. "Yes. They've grown bolder, attacking civilian ships throughout this sector. The consortium has been developing new defensive technologies, but the pirates adapt quickly." Maya found herself thinking about the problem from an engineer's perspective. Pirates succeeded by being unpredictable, hitting where defenses were weakest. But what if you could turn that unpredictability into a weakness? What if instead of building better defenses, you built ships that could adapt faster than the pirates could? She suggested. Biomechanical systems that could literally evolve new defensive capabilities in real time? The silence that followed her suggestion was profound. Zephyr stared at her, his large eyes wide with surprise. "Adaptive defense systems," he said slowly. "Ships that learn and grow stronger from each attack. It's brilliant, and completely impossible with current technology. But maybe not impossible with human consortium cooperation," Maya said, warming to the idea. "My people have always been good at making impossible things work." When they reached the research station, Maya's suggestion had already been transmitted ahead and was causing considerable excitement. The facility was a marvel of engineering, an artificial world built specifically for scientific research, housing representatives from dozens of civilizations. Maya was assigned to a workshop equipped with tools and materials from across the galaxy. Her first project was to develop the adaptive defense system she'd proposed, working with a team that included bioengineers, systems theorists, and military tacticians from multiple species. The work was challenging in ways that fixing mining equipment had never been. She wasn't just repairing existing technology now. She was helping to create something entirely new. The biomechanical systems had to be sophisticated enough to learn and adapt, but stable enough to protect the ships they defended. Months passed as Maya and her team refined the design. They created test systems that could analyze incoming attacks and develop countermeasures in real time. They built adaptive hull plating that could redirect energy weapons and shields that grew stronger under fire. The first field test came when pirate ships attacked a consortium convoy in the Outer Rim. The merchant vessels equipped with Maya's adaptive defense systems not only survived the assault, but turned the tables on their attackers. The pirates found themselves outmatched by ships that seemed to learn from every weapon they deployed. Word of the success spread quickly through consortium space. Maya Chen, the human engineer who had once fixed a stranger's ship for nothing, was now being hailed as the creator of the most revolutionary defensive technology in galactic history. But for Maya, the real victory was simpler. She had found her place in the galaxy, using her skills to protect people she'd never met, just as she'd once helped Zephyr when he was stranded and alone. Standing in her workshop, surrounded by colleagues from a dozen different worlds, Maya realized that the path from that first act of kindness to this moment had been inevitable. Humans, she was learning, had a gift for seeing connections that others missed, for finding solutions that brought different perspectives together. The galaxy was vast and full of wonders she was only beginning to understand. But at its heart, it was still about the same simple principle that had guided her that day on Kepler 442b. When someone needs help, you provide it. Everything else, the technology, the politics, the grand galactic alliances, those were just details. Those were just details. As reports came in of merchant ships successfully defending themselves against pirate attacks throughout the Outer Rim, Maya smiled and got back to work. There were still problems to solve, still impossible things to make possible. And now she had the tools, the knowledge, and the collaborators to make a real difference. The small-town mechanic who had once fixed spaceships for nothing had become something she'd never imagined. A guardian of galactic civilization, using human ingenuity and alien wisdom to build a safer universe for everyone. All because she'd been willing to help a stranger who had nowhere else to turn.